Has she been receiving any medications I'm not aware of? Just what's on her chart, Mom said quickly. Why? Probably nothing, but I'll mention it to the doctor. The nurse left without another word. Mom watched her go, jaw tight. We should be more careful, she murmured to Dad. She's just being thorough, he replied. No one suspected anything for 18 years. Why would they start now? But I'd seen the nurse's expression, the way she'd studied my IV port, the careful notes she'd taken. For the first time since my admission, someone was actually looking at me instead of through me. That night, my parents took shifts as usual. Mom dozed in the chair while Dad read by the window. The ward was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors and distant footsteps in the hall. I focused all my energy on moving, just one finger, one sign that I was still fighting. The paralytic substances made everything feel impossibly heavy, but I concentrated on my right index finger, the tiniest twitch. Nothing happened for hours. Then, as dawn light crept through the blinds, I felt it, the slightest movement, barely visible, but real. Dad was pouring coffee from his thermos when the sharp-eyed nurse returned. She checked my chart, then looked directly at me. Morning rounds in an hour, she announced. I'll need to prep her. We'll help, Mom offered, instantly awake. That won't be necessary. The nurse's tone brooked no argument. Hospital policy. She waited until they reluctantly stepped out, then immediately moved to my bedside. Her fingers found my pulse, counted silently. Your heart rate increases when they're here, she said quietly, and decreases when they leave. Interesting pattern for someone supposedly comatose. She checked my pupils again, then did something unexpected. She lifted my right hand, studying my fingers. Can you move at all? Even a little? I concentrated everything on that index finger, the tiniest twitch, but she caught it. Good. She glanced at the door. I've been reviewing your file. 18 years of mysterious illness. No definitive diagnosis. Symptoms that worsen after home visits. She leaned closer. I've seen this before. My heart monitor spiked. She noticed. Stay calm. I'm going to help you, but we need to be smart about it. She pretended to adjust my blankets while speaking. Your parents have everyone convinced you're delusional. Direct accusations won't work. We need proof. She pulled out her phone, quickly photographing something on my IV line. I found traces of injection sites that don't match your medication schedule. Someone's been adding things to your IV. The door opened. Mom peered in suspiciously. Is everything all right? Just checking her skin integrity, the nurse said smoothly. Bed sores are a concern with immobile patients. Mom relaxed slightly. Of course, we appreciate your thoroughness. The nurse finished her tasks and left. Mom immediately moved to my bedside, studying my face. You look flushed, she said. Are you running a fever? She pressed a hand to my forehead, and I wanted to scream. Every touch was a violation, a reminder of 18 years of false concern hiding calculated harm. Dad joined her. Maybe we should increase her sedatives. She seems agitated. I'll mention it to the doctor, Mom agreed. We can't have her suffering. The sharp-eyed nurse returned later that morning with a different approach. She brought a medical student with her, a young woman who seemed nervous around my parents. The nurse introduced her as Catherine, explaining she was shadowing for educational purposes. Mom's eyes narrowed slightly, but she maintained her caring facade. Dad barely glanced up from his phone where he was messaging someone about funeral arrangements. Catherine watched everything with fresh eyes. She observed how Mom insisted on adjusting my IV herself, how Dad positioned himself to block certain angles of view. The nurse directed Catherine to check my reflexes while she distracted my parents with questions about my medical history. I felt Catherine's hands on my feet, testing for responses. When she pressed certain points, I managed the faintest twitch. Her eyes widened, but she kept her expression neutral, making notes on her clipboard. The examination lasted 20 minutes. Mom grew increasingly agitated, hovering closer with each passing moment. Finally, she interrupted to say I needed rest. The nurse agreed, but mentioned they'd return for afternoon rounds. After they left, Mom paced the room while Dad made phone calls. I caught fragments of his conversation with insurance companies, confirming policy details and payout procedures. Each call made my stomach clench despite the heavy sedation. Mom prepared another smoothie, this one thicker than before. She added multiple powders from unmarked containers in her purse, stirring methodically. The smell made my eyes water even from across the room. She approached with a cup, but Dad stopped her. They huddled together, whispering urgently. I strained to hear but caught only pieces. Something about the nurse asking too many questions, about needing to accelerate their timeline. Mom nodded and returned to my bedside. She didn't try to feed me the smoothie. Instead, she injected it directly into my feeding tube, bypassing any chance I might resist or spit it out. The liquid burned as it entered my system. Within minutes, my vision blurred. My heart raced, then slowed dramatically. The monitors began alarming. Mom pressed the call button, tears already flowing. Medical staff rushed in. The sharp-eyed nurse wasn't among them. These were different people, ones who didn't question why my parents were always present, always handling my care. They adjusted medications and checked vitals while Mom sobbed about how I'd been declining all morning. Dr. Morrison arrived, gray-faced and sympathetic. She spoke to my parents about making me comfortable in my final days, about how sometimes the kindest thing was to let nature take